position is quite new. How do you plan to make it your own? How do you see yourself growing within this position?
I think there is so much room for growth for me, especially as someone who I feel like is not just new, not just relatively new to the space, but in this space as of the e-board. The place that I wanted to bring it, coming from people that I've talked to, I really want to bring in intergenerational exchange between our community. Something that has stood out to me within Filipino culture is that we're always giving back to each other, and I want to see more of that in this space, especially between us and our other Filipino community, especially in San Francisco.
For me, since this is like, I asked a lot of people about it, because it's like her, like, oh, this is the new position, so this is very like flexible. For me, I'm starting to like know like a lot of information that I learned beforehand when I was still in the Philippines that I am not sure if it was already shared in Kasamahan. So for me, I want to like compile everything like Filipino literature and another like folk dances to introduce for like other people and just like make it like more welcoming to everyone to like give suggestions to me so that I can incorporate it and make it possible for them to like show it to everyone.
Learning through dialogue in space is important. How do you plan on sharing a cultural space with other USF cultural organizations, as well as other spaces like dance companies and cultural programs? What do you have in store for Islamabad and others who don't get a PCM? How do you ensure a Islamabad South spirit through each cultural part and how do we learn together?
So personally, recently I've been starting to like research about dances because I heard that this ERD is like mainly managing like dance schools. So I am like in this position I am also like I'm also like need to organize like that like the dance troupe to like perform in different culture events. So I am planning to like introduce like a new dance, folk dance like Pandago sa Ilaw, which is also like I know kind of hard, but it's really like interesting. And or if that doesn't work, I can also like work with Karinjasa, which is also like a new dance. So maybe I will like encourage like the dance troupe. I know that I also don't dance, so I will like encourage them like to do that dance if they want, and also talk to a lot of organizations that might like help culture events, organizing them for our dance group to perform in their event. Can I ask you the repeat question over there?
Learning through dialogue in space is important. How do you plan on sharing a cultural space with other USF organizations, as well as other spaces like dance companies and cultural programs? What do you have in store for Islamabad and for other organizations who don't have a PCM? How do you ensure that Islamabad has spirit through each cultural board, and how do we learn together?
In terms of with other cultural orgs, I don't think I would treat it any different than the way I would relay information to us. It's something, dialogue to me with other people is what is a part of that drive. This is the part that drives me, and I think I would treat it as any cultural workshop that I would plan to hold here as CRD. And in terms of something that I wanted to incorporate into the greater community, especially with high schoolers around the SFA area, I really want them if it's possible, during one of our PCM run-throughs, to come and host students to come watch one of our run-throughs and exchange Q&A sessions between us so that they can learn about more of our dances and why we do it. fine duties.
Sydney and
Kasamahan is known as one of the largest orgs on campus, and we are very heavy with our social events. How will you bridge the gap between culture and membership and instill more opportunities for membership to learn more about our culture? Oh, sorry. Basically, the question is asking, how will you bridge the gap between culture and membership?
In terms of like Filipino or non-Filipino, is there anything? Like, or
Up to
sermon?
your interpretation.
Up to it.
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of our memberships, again, I plan to hold a lot of different workshops that highlight different aspects of Filipino culture. Hopefully every month would be the space. But I think in terms of educating people through their wants and their desires, kind of like everyone has a way that they like to learn. That could mean many different outlets. And I think asking and being open to suggestions about how they may want to learn cultural aspects of Filipino culture is something that I'd be open to.
For me, I'm thinking about like collaborating with like one PSP from like getting details and details and ideas from them. And also I know that Kasamahan is like a very diverse community. It's like open for everyone. So I want to like promote more that Kasamahan is not just about Filipino. It's not just about Filipino Americans, but it is for everyone that who are very interested in our culture. And from there, I want to like do a lot of events that can let them understand, learn about their culture, and just like make them feel that even though you're not a Filipino, you are one with us.
So one of the responsibilities of CRD is to oversee dance troupe. However, most often dance troupe is only active during the fall semester. Do you have any plans for dance troupe that can increase their involvement in Kasamahan or the greater USF community that extends further than just the fall semester?
I personally would love to see dance troupe as like an all-year thing all-year-around thing. I know it's easier said than done, especially with people's schedules and in terms of interest, it may be really hard, but I'd like to open that line of being able to join dance troupe at any time and not limiting it to a certain time. And of course, getting involved in different events that are going on and possibilities where we may be able to perform all throughout the year.
I also agree with Ella, just to add more, for me, I also want to like, if I want to organize more events for dance troupe, I should like study and learn about other organizations that will held like events during the spring semester, and from there I can like ask like the dance troupe like their availabilities, so I can organize like them to join other like culture event if other organizations have it. And also maybe I can also like do workshops like they can teach other kasamas or others who's really like interested to learn the dance they're performing in front of everyone who's like in that event.
There's always the conversation of appropriation versus appreciation when it comes to culture. How do you plan to approach this conversation or any situations that might arise in regards to it?
One thing specifically, I think this goes hand in hand with just our cultural integrity in general, is that I wanted to create a committee to help. I think vetting information and practices and cultures is so hard, even just for 1, 2, even 3 people is hard enough. So one thing that I really wanted to implement is like help, because there are so many sources that we refer to when talking about culture, and that is across all aspects. So one thing is that cross-referencing multiple sources and using all resources we have on campus and outside of campus is something that I want to implement to make sure that those conversations don't necessarily have to be held, or when they are, there are multiple voices heard and opinions heard, especially for the people that we're trying to appreciate.
For me, I want to really like take advantage of like having the chance to like live in the Philippines. So I really have like, a lot of connections in the Philippines, especially in my school, like in previous schools. So I want to like reach out to all the teachers like who taught me about the Philippine culture, and from there seek like a lot of informations and learn that what is right and wrong in that certain culture. Like I want to like share with everyone, and also I want to also hear like a lot suggestions and like what you know about their culture, like the people in Kasamahan. I want to like learn from there too, like what their understanding of our culture, and from there I can also like share them what is like what I know and the difference of what they know and what I know. So you can like what you know.
We often experience a gap between the Filipino and Filipino-American experiences. In educating Kasamahan on cultural matters, how can we bridge any possible disconnect, intimidation, or hesitancy with Filipino-Americans and non-Filipinos?
I think it's important to realize where that disconnect comes from. Personally, for me, like I mentioned in my speech, it comes out of guilt and fear and judgment of people as me not knowing maybe something about the culture that they should know. I think that people tend to forget to realize that it wasn't their fault that our culture was wiped away from us. And I think by acknowledging that it wasn't our fault and that comes from systemic systems in place, it wipes away the guilt and a little of the hesitancy that people may feel and the disconnection that people would feel when coming into this space. Yeah.
For me, I really think that when it comes to like, the strong connection between our community and our members, because from my experience, I heard a lot of people like, oh, you should not be there because you're not belong there. Because it's just for like Filipino American and I'm not Filipino. And they will always like talk about like, oh, do you know how Konyo are gay? And I know like a lot of people, even like someone like even told me before that they pronounce Kasamahan wrong. And they were like, and now you're not bored, like you're bored. How can you like tell them like their pronunciation is wrong? And also, and from there, I just said like the problem is like how like the people judge you, even though you're like in the same culture, like in the same, like both of you are like Filipino and wanted to like learn more about our culture. And also, it's not just like, you should not be discouraged if someone like told you like, you don't belong here. You're not supposed to be here. You're not a Filipino. You should like believe in yourself and make like a strong bond with your community, as it is one of the most important things to like stay motivated and keep on learning keep on feeling being belong.
So, how are you going to approach the issue of people from different cultural backgrounds wanting to learn more about being involved in Filipino culture while also making sure that Filipino voices remain heard and respected?
Something that I thought about concerning especially non my thing about this is that I think that's a really hard barrier to or a place. Okay, never mind. We should start. I think for non-Filipino members, something that I have thought about in terms of education is something like a kind of like a Philly 101 type of workshop where we're not trying to dumb down the information for people who want to learn our culture, but instead format it in a way where it's understandable and digestible to people who are coming from outside the community. And I think that's part of that is, again, not diminishing any part of the information we're given to accommodate towards people who are not Filipino in the space that we're in.
I just think that this is like important to like even though we experience like a worse deed, like a worse word coming from a non-Filipino member, it is like important to still show respect even though you're not sharing the same like the same belief, and just keep on like showing them your passion and how compassionate you are to be and always be proud of what you are or who you are. And also it's also like important that we don't force anyone if they really don't want to learn their culture. Maybe some of them will like show interest, like most of them can show interest, but some of them also like face like suddenly realize, oh, I feel like I don't belong here. So the idea of like respecting their decision like in the middle of everything, it's always like important to like show respect.
So one issue when it comes to culture and spreading culture, Philippine culture specifically, is like the jolly deification of Filipino culture, which is basically just like the Tagalog culture is basically the only thing that people are exposed to. So how would you describe the vastness and diversity of Philippine culture, and how do you plan to make sure that the culture that you do spread and that you do talk about is representative not just of that, but also of the diaspora?
Personally, I really like, I'm aiming to like really show, not just focusing on Tagalog, but also like showing all the Philippine culture, not just like focusing on one aspect. And also, I feel like I want to also introduce like some dialects, because a lot of people really don't know that Philippines have a lot of dialects. They only know that, oh, you speak Tagalog, right? And like people know I don't speak Tagalog. I speak like a different dialect from the Philippines. So I want to like also share to a lot of people that we have this kind of dialects that a lot of Filipino, like a lot of people from the Philippines use. And also, I'm also thinking about like holding a series of events, like holding Kahoots, like we're popping a lot of questions, like from the Philippine history. And from there, if someone cannot understand, like don't understand what that is that history about, I can also like discuss with them like what is it all about.
Okay, sorry, I lost something. know, focus on, or talk about. So how would you explain or describe the vastness of Philippine culture? And how would you plan and how would you teach culture and spread it to incorporate the diversity of the diaspora in those conversations?
I think it's really hard to pinpoint everything about every aspect of Filipino culture because of the diversity that we have, not just within the Philippines, but within the Filipino American culture as well. I want to make sure that both of those conversations are heard in the sense that they're two separate conversations to be held, but also they connect. And in terms of the Philippines itself, like Christine said, it's so diverse. We're 7,000 plus islands. And I think for me, the best place to go and the best is to go and reach out to the resources that I have around SF, especially around USP and outside organizations like IUNCC and other things like that in order to hear as many voices from different aspects of both Philippine and Filipino-American culture. I think for me, having that open conversation where multiple voices are heard with different backgrounds from the Philippines and the Filipino-American diaspora is really important.